boys and girls, this is Ms. Hanamio, and I'm going to take some time to take a look at our DMA week 33, day 4. So I tried recording this morning and yesterday, but for some reason my document camera is not working the way it should be. I'm not getting any video. So I've come to Miss Badger's room and I'm going to use her document camera, and hopefully things will work out well this time. So let's take a look at our first problem. And the first thing I want to do is I'm going to use my rounding skills to see what is this difference going to be close to. So if I were going to round, and I want everybody to do this as I'm doing it on their paper, if I were going to round each one of these numbers, 584 and 295, to the nearest 100, what would that be about? So 584, here's my hundreds place. It's either going to round to 500 or the next one, which is 600. Now remember, to decide which one we round it to, we're going to look at 50, which is right in the middle. So 50 is in the middle, and 84, is it going to be less than 50 or greater than 50? If you said greater than 50, you're correct. So 584 would round up because 84 is past the 50 mark. So this would round up to 600. Now let's take a look at 295. If you haven't already guessed, 295 is super close to one of our hundreds. Is it closer to 200? Or is it closer to the next one, which is 300? Right. If you said it's closer to 300, you are correct. And so think about 95. Is 95 past the 50 mark? It sure is. So we're going to round 295 to 300. Now, let's take that 600 and subtract 300, and you get a difference of 300. So when I go to find the exact difference between these two numbers, I should be close or about 300. Remember, this is our little about symbol, right? This is going to be about 300. So let's take a look. Let's see if that's true. So I'm going to start off with my algorithm today, and I'm going to use my place values and line these up. Now, when I go to subtract, I always start in my ones place for an algorithm. And why is that? Well, it's because I may need to borrow from the other place values so that I can subtract. So let's take a look at our ones place. Can I subtract 5 from 4? No, I do not have enough to subtract 5 from only 4. So what does that tell me I need to do? That tells me I need to come to the tens place and I need to borrow a 10 from this 80 and make this 70. So now I have 7 tens, and I'm going to take that 10 that I just borrowed and I'm going to add it to the 4 to make this 14. So now I can go ahead and subtract 5 from 14. Well, how do I know what 14 minus 5 is? Well, I could subtract 4 and then one more. If I subtract 4 from 10, that would be 10, and then one more would be 9. Or I could think of it as addition. Well, 5 plus 5 is 10, so 6 plus 5 would be 11, 7 plus 5 would be 12, 8 plus 5 would be 13, and 9 plus 5 would be 14. So either way you look at it, you are still going to get 9 as your difference. Now let's go ahead and move to our tens place. Now once we look at our tens, can we subtract 9 tens or 90 from 7 tens? No, we do not have enough to subtract. So what does that tell me I need to do? Well, that tells me I need to come over here to the hundreds place, borrow 100 and regroup it as 10 tens. Remember, 10 tens is 100. So these 17 tens is actually 170. I just took one of them from here and put it here to make this 17 or 170. Now I can subtract 9 from that. So I could subtract this as 7 and then 2 more. So if I subtract 7, that would be 10, and then 2 more would be 8. Or I can check it and say 8 plus 9 is 17, or 80 plus 90 is 170. And then finally, I go to my hundreds place, and I subtract 4 hundreds minus 2 hundreds, and that leaves me with 2 hundreds. Now, let's double check our subtraction. And what do we use to double check our subtraction? Right, we can use addition because I started with the whole. I took part of this out of 584 to find what's left. So I'm going to take this 284 as my part, and I'm going to put the other part back with it and combine them by adding. And I'm going to see if they add back up to what I started with, which is the 584. So addition is the opposite of subtraction. So 9, one more would be 10, and then 4 more would be 14. So I'm going to carry that 10 to the tens place. Now I'm looking and I can see 100. 9 tens plus one more 10 makes 10 tens. And remember, 10 tens is going to give me that new 100. And then I bring down the 8 tens because we don't have any more to add to that. So now I go to my hundreds place. I have 2 hundreds, and 2 hundreds is 4 hundreds, plus the one more that I regrouped is going to be 5 hundreds. So now let's double check and make sure all of these numbers are in my subtraction sentence. 584 is right here, 295 is right here, and 289 is right here. So checking my addition, using the subtraction, I'm double checking and making sure all three numbers are in both number sentences. Now, another way that you could have done this is you could have taken each place value and subtracted. So I can take my hundreds and my hundreds place here and here and subtract them. That leaves me with 300. Now I can take my tens, which is 80 and 90, 80 and 90, and now I can subtract. What do you notice? Right, you don't have enough hundreds, you don't have enough here to subtract. This is almost 100, isn't it? So I'm going to regroup or borrow 100 from here, and I'm going to add it there. I'm going to regroup it. Regroup means I'm going to take it from one place value and help me use it for another place value. I'm going to regroup it. All right, so now 180 or 18 and 9 tens, which is what we kind of were looking at before, is going to leave me with 90, because 90 plus 90 is 180. 90 plus 90 is 180. Or if you think about it, I could take this 80 out, which would leave me with 100, and then I could take 10 more out of 100, and that would leave me with 90. Lots of ways to look at this. All right, now let's go to the ones. We have 4 ones and 5 ones. And 4 minus 5 cannot be done. So again, I'm going to come over here to my tens, and I'm going to borrow a 10, and I'm going to add it to that 4 to make 14. So that's one less 10 here, and I'm going to use it here. Now, I could subtract 4 and 1. So if I subtract 4 from 14, that leaves me with 10. And then 1 more from 10 would make 9. So now I take my hundreds, my tens, and my ones places and put them all back together as 289. 289 is what you get when you put these place values back together. So 289 is the same. All right, that next word problem might be a little tricky, so let's take it step by step. So Haley has 32 marigold seeds, and Maggie gives her 31 more. So what happens when Haley has 32 and Maggie gives her 31 more? Right, you're adding them together. You're putting these two amounts together as two parts to make a whole. So now we are going to read the rest of the problem. It says if Haley wants to divide or share her seeds evenly into 7 pots, and these pots are my groups, right? The question is asking how many seeds will go in each pot. So just as a reminder, what we're doing is we're putting the seeds together and then we're going to share them or divide them equally. And with division, remember, you have your total, in this case, total seeds. You're going to break them up or share them equally into groups. And we're going to look for the number of seeds in each group. So, total divided up into groups, we're going to know the number in each group. Now again, remember, we can switch these if we know one and not the other. So if I knew the number of seeds that were going to go in each pot, but not the number of pots, then I could figure that out by using what I know about division. All right, so now I'm just going to grab an extra sheet of paper here, and I'm going to show this. So I have one group of seeds, that's 32. I have another group of seeds, that's 1. And remember, this could not be a multiplication sentence because these are not equal groups. So one group and another group, and when I put them together, what do I get? Right, 63. 30 and 30 is 60, and 2 and 1 is 3, and I don't have enough ones to make a new 10, so my total seeds are going to be 63. 63 total seeds. Now, the next part of my problem says to divide them evenly, share them equally. So I'm going to take my 63 seeds, I'm going to share them equally into my 7 groups, which are the pots, and I need to know how many are going to go in each pot or each group. So remember, if you know your multiplication facts, these are the pots or the groups. These are the number in each group or each pot, and my total is going to be 63 seeds. So if you know your multiplication facts really well, and hopefully you do, you could tell me how many groups of blank would make 63. Now, we could also use what we know about counting by sevens to find out how many groups of 7 I need, but we need to be very careful about that because we are not counting by groups of 7 seeds. We're using that to help us find the missing factor. So if I need to, I can use what I know about division and taking numbers apart. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if I have 7 groups and I start sharing these into equal groups, well, I could start by using 5 groups of 7 or 7 groups of 5. And 7 groups of 5 is 35. Well, that's not 63. What about 7 groups of 6? So I'd have 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42. Nope. 7 groups of 7. 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49. Nope. What about 7 groups of 8? 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, and then 56. Nope. So 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, 63. Those are my 9s. And 63 is my total. And so there are going to be 9 in each group, each pot. So this is a 2-step problem. You had to add the seeds together first and then divide them equally into the groups. All right, now let's take a look at another problem. And another problem that we have is looking at how much a small dog weighs in grams. So we're going to take a look now, and I'm going to show you some tools real quick. This right here is a weight. It is 50 grams. So right here, B happens to say 50 grams. So if we were to take a look at this, 50 grams, does that look like the amount that a small dog could weigh? No. This is 1 gram right here. This gives you an idea of what 1 gram looks like. This is 1 gram. So it takes 50 of these to make 50 grams, one of these larger amounts. Now, I'm going to give you some information here that I want you to write down. So maybe next time you can use this to help you. It takes 1,000 grams to make what we call a kilogram. A kilogram. And a kilogram is about 2 pounds. It's a little over 2 pounds, but not by a lot. Okay, so that's why I'm kind of rounding it. Okay, I'm rounding it to the closest pound. Now, let's take a look at what we have here. We know that a dog can't weigh this amount right here. That's not going to be reasonable. But now let's take a look at A. Well, we need 15 of these to make 15 grams. Does that sound reasonable? Definitely not. So now let's take a look at C and D. Now, what we just talked about, it says 1,000 grams is equal to 1 kilogram. So if I have 5,000 grams, how many kilograms would that be? Right, it would be 5 kilograms. So for every 1,000, we have 1 kilogram. Now, as far as pounds go, for every 2 pounds, I have 1 kilogram. So that tells me that this is going to be 10 pounds. Now, could a small dog weigh about 10 pounds? Sure. Now, let's take the other example. Let's take 15 1,000 grams. And again, for every 1,000, I'm going to have 1 kilogram. So I will have 15 kilograms, and 15 times 2, because each kilogram is 2 pounds, is going to be 15 and 15 makes 30. 30 pounds. Now, 30 pounds might seem like maybe a medium-sized dog to a larger dog. Maybe. So, some of you may have put this, that's okay. If you put this, that's also okay, because those both seem like they can be reasonable. I could have a 10-pound dog, depending on how small it is, but I also could have a small dog that might weigh 30 pounds also. So if you put C or D, that seems very reasonable or acceptable. All right, let's take a look now at the next one. And we have 4 groups of 2. 4 groups of 2 is 8. If I take 6 objects and I divide them equally into 3 groups, how many will be in each group? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many is in each group? 2 in each group. And again, if I use my 14 objects, or if I use my multiplication, how many groups of blank, 7 groups of what is equal to 14? Right, if you said 7 groups of 2, that would be correct. So you're using your multiplication to help you with your quotient on division. So our missing factor is our quotient here. All right, guys, that's it for today. Sorry about the late entry into our DMA today. Hopefully I can get my camera figured out and we'll be back on track come next week. Have a great afternoon and see you soon.